Welcome to True Life Lessons. Today we explore a beautiful tale about two very different pigeons living in a peaceful, quiet village. In this vibrant green valley, flocks of birds chirped happily every single morning, creating a wonderful symphony of pure joy and harmony. Among these cheerful birds lived a brilliantly white pigeon named Sunny, who possessed feathers that gleamed brightly under the warm morning sunlight. Sunny was incredibly talkative. He always believed that speaking loudly and frequently was the absolute best way to show off his intelligence. Whenever other birds gathered around, Sunny would immediately dominate the entire conversation, rarely giving anyone else a single chance to speak up. He constantly offered unsolicited advice to everyone, firmly convinced that his vast knowledge was vastly superior to that of any other bird. On the complete opposite side of the spectrum was Chintu, a modest grey pigeon who preferred sitting quietly on the wooden fences. Chintu rarely spoke out loud. Instead, he spent his days carefully observing the surrounding world and listening closely to the gentle wind. While Sunny boasted about his flying skills, Chintu paid attention to the tiny details, learning important secrets from the ancient forest trees. The other animals often ignored Chintu because he was so silent, but they never realized the deep wisdom hiding behind his quietness. For many months, life was absolutely perfect. The rivers flowed with crystal-clear water, and food was abundant across the entire valley. Sunny spent all those good days fluttering around, loudly bragging about how he knew every single corner of the vast, beautiful forest. Chintu simply smiled and nodded, choosing to spend his precious time watching the ants build their complex homes in the soft dirt. He noticed how the old sparrows predicted the weather by observing the dark clouds, silently absorbing every single piece of valuable information. However, this peaceful existence was suddenly threatened when a terrible drought struck the village without any warning during the hot summer months. The scorching sun beat down relentlessly, quickly turning the once lush green fields into dry, cracked patches of lifeless, dusty brown earth. The sparkling rivers slowly turned into tiny, muddy puddles, leaving the thirsty animals desperate for even a single drop of fresh water. Panic spread rapidly among the birds as their usual drinking spots completely dried up, forcing them to search endlessly for new sources. Every morning, the birds would fly out in different directions, hoping to find a hidden pond, but they always returned completely exhausted. The situation grew more critical with each passing day. The entire bird community decided to hold an urgent meeting near the oak. Hundreds of worried birds gathered around the oldest tree, their wings drooping with extreme fatigue and their throats incredibly dry and parched. Before anyone could officially start the meeting, Sunny immediately flew to the highest branch, loudly demanding everyone's absolute attention right away. He puffed out his white chest proudly and declared that he knew the perfect solution to save them all from this disaster. Sunny confidently announced that they must fly to the distant northern mountains, claiming he had heard rumors of an endless flowing waterfall. He spoke with such overwhelming conviction that many desperate birds immediately believed his grand story without asking any logical questions about it. Meanwhile, Chintu sat quietly on a lower branch, carefully listening to a small group of exhausted sparrows who had just returned home. The little sparrows whispered that the northern winds felt incredibly dry, indicating that the distant mountains were likely suffering from drought too. Chintu also noticed the wise old owl shaking his head slowly, silently disagreeing with Sunny's overly confident and extremely risky escape plan. Instead of arguing with Sunny, Chintu politely approached the old owl and quietly asked for his valuable guidance regarding the water situation. The wise owl softly revealed the existence of a secret underground spring located right here in their own valley, perfectly hidden away. Sunny continued his loud speech, completely ignoring the sparrows and the owl, urging the flock to follow him immediately toward the mountains. A large group of younger, energetic birds cheered for Sunny, completely mesmerized by his confident words and his shiny, beautiful white feathers. They quickly formed a massive flock behind him, ready to embark on the long, dangerous journey across the harsh, unforgiving desert lands. Chintu tried to gently warn a few of them, but his quiet voice was completely drowned out by Sunny's loud, booming commands. Without waiting for further discussion, Sunny took off into the bright blue sky, leading his trusting followers toward the distant, hazy mountains. Only a small group of older, weaker birds remained behind, with Chintu feeling too exhausted to attempt such a long, difficult flight. Chintu calmly turned to the remaining birds, offering them a gentle smile of reassurance during this incredibly dark and frightening, uncertain time. He carefully explained the valuable information he had gathered from the wise owl, promising to lead them to the hidden underground spring. Following Chintu's quiet instructions, the small group fluttered slowly toward the western edge of the valley, moving carefully through the dried bushes. Meanwhile, Sunny and his large flock were flying high above the scorching plains, the blazing sun beating down on their tired wings. The journey was much harder than Sunny had ever imagined. The hot winds pushed against them, draining their energy with every mile. Many birds started complaining about the extreme heat, but Sunny stubbornly told them to stop whining and just keep flying forward faster. Back in the valley, Chintu guided his group toward a rocky cave that was completely hidden behind a thick wall of vines. As they entered the cool, dark cave, the refreshing sound of trickling water echoed softly against the damp, mossy, ancient stone walls. The birds rejoiced as they discovered a beautiful, crystal-clear pool of fresh water perfectly preserved from the harsh, terrible drought outside. Chintu patiently waited until every single bird had taken a long, refreshing drink before finally dipping his own beak into the water. Thanks to his careful listening and humble nature, Chintu had successfully saved his friends without having to leave their beloved peaceful home. Far away, Sunny's flock finally reached the northern mountains, finding only barren rocks and completely dried-up riverbeds waiting for them there. Sunny stared in absolute horror at the dusty ground. His confident rumors had been completely wrong, and now everyone was terribly thirsty. The exhausted birds looked at Sunny with deep disappointment and anger, realizing his loud words were completely empty and lacked true wisdom. Feeling incredibly ashamed and guilty, Sunny apologized to the flock, finally understanding the terrible consequences of his arrogant, reckless, and hasty decisions. With heavy hearts and tired wings, the disappointed flock began the agonizingly slow and painful journey back to their dry, dusty village. Back at the cave, Chintu and his group were resting peacefully, their bellies full of cool water and their spirits completely restored. Chintu spent the afternoon listening to the older birds share fascinating stories about their youth, learning even more about the beautiful forest. He never once bragged about finding the water. He simply felt happy that everyone was safe and healthy during this terrible crisis. Several days passed before Sunny and his flock finally returned to the village, looking completely exhausted, miserable, and desperately thirsty for water. They collapsed near the old oak tree, barely able to keep their eyes open after surviving such a brutal, terrifying, useless journey. Chintu immediately noticed their return and quickly flew over to greet them, his heart aching at the sight of their terrible suffering. Without wasting a single second, Chintu gently guided the exhausted birds toward the hidden cave, helping them walk through the thick bushes. When Sunny finally drank from the cool underground spring, tears of deep gratitude and profound regret slowly rolled down his dusty cheeks. After everyone had fully recovered, Sunny slowly approached Chintu, keeping his head bowed low in genuine shame and absolute, humble silence. He sincerely apologized for his foolish arrogance, admitting that his constant talking had nearly cost all of their innocent, precious little lives. Sunny confessed that he thought being loud made him look incredibly smart, but now he realized how incredibly blind he had been. Chintu placed a comforting wing on Sunny's shoulder, offering a warm, forgiving smile that completely melted away their heavy, awkward tension. In a soft, gentle voice, Chintu shared a profound piece of wisdom that he had learned from his many years of observation. He quietly said that we are given 2 ears and only 1 mouth for a very specific, important, and truly meaningful reason. This beautiful design is a constant reminder that we should always strive to listen much more than we actually choose to speak. Sunny nodded slowly, letting those wise words sink deeply into his heart, forever changing the way he viewed himself and the world. From that day forward, Sunny completely stopped his endless bragging and started paying close attention to the beautiful sounds of the forest. He discovered that true wisdom does not come from showing off your knowledge, but from keeping an open mind and listening carefully. The village eventually recovered from the terrible drought, and the birds lived happily together, sharing their knowledge with deep respect and kindness. Sunny and Chintu became the best of friends, perfectly balancing each other out with thoughtful conversations and long, peaceful moments of silence. Silence helps us absorb true understanding, while an open heart allows us to receive valuable knowledge from absolutely every single available source. The story of the two pigeons remains a powerful reminder for all of us to stay humble and always listen to others. Thank you for watching True Life Lessons. We hope this story inspires you to listen more closely. See you next time, friends.